So, I'm going to talk about doing the right thing, what doing the right thing does, and how it affects your life. Right? So, I'm going to start off with the compressed version. Right? You know when people say walking the line? Right? Well, that's your lifeline. Right? Now, there's a line. You stick to that line. You stick to the truth. Right? You do what's right, and then you walk the line, your lifeline. Stays true, it's an easy path to follow. Right? What happens is, if you know something is wrong, but you don't address it, if you don't do what's right, then you split. Right? What happens is, there becomes two lines. One that you know that you should follow, right? And that tends to be inside, right? Um, your intuition, right, tells you that's what's right, and you know that. The other line is what you walk in on the outside, right? And that's the result of actions in a physical place. Now, the difference is, right, of how much time and how wrong it is, right, to you know what's right to you. So what happens sometimes is people try and put distance. They know something's not right, right? They know what they should do, but they try and forget about it, right? They try and put distance between themselves, right, and this thing that they know is right. Right? I'm not going to use specifics because it's different for each person and environment. But the template of understanding it is generally the same, right? So what they try and do is they try and put distance between the intuition, right, inside, what they know is right, and the reality of the outside. And what this does is it stretches, and this is the reason why it's called so. If you think of somebody on a stretcher, it's it's bad physically. What it does is it pulls you apart, right? It stresses your um, physical being between your intuition and your environment, and it pulls you apart. And this is what the cracks are, and this is why in aging, when you see the signs of aging, you see the signs of aging from a person of experience, a person who's possibly had a lot of trauma. When they say you've lived a hard life, right? It's because of the signs of the trauma, of the distance of being pulled apart. Now, to not go on about that too much, because I get that you understand that part of it, right? Is to walk the true path to find the balance, is letting your intuition meet the environment and then walking the connected path, walking the balanced path, bringing the two. And there's no accident, right, that when you bring the two sides together, right, and that's about the balance. But understanding it, knowing it, you've seen that before. You know, people pray and people use that positioning for many different things. But understanding why and what actually is it about, well, that's what it's about. It's about doing what's right. Left on your screen. But doing what's right, and bringing that in. There's also the environment which has been left. To find the balance, to walk your path so that you don't stress and get pulled apart between the two. Alright, so there's that. Before I started this video, I thought about something else which links onto this really well. So I'm just going to have a minute while I think about that. See if I can remember that for you. All right. So this is another perspective. All right. Perspective. I'm not going to go too much into how words link into an understanding, though deception sometimes of perception that here needs correction. So you've got two lines, right? What happens is there's a misperception, because if you are looking at two lines from somebody else's point of view, somebody who stood over to my left could see from their point of view one line. Now this is where you need to listen to yourself, right? You can understand the framework of things, right? And the answers and the templates, which is where temples, right? The templates are there is because they're there to share, but the answer for you is in you, is from your perspective. And what other people sometimes try and do is they try and change your perspective into their perspective so that you walk the path that they see, which might temporarily, right, as you change your perspective, right, to try and see from their point of view, might temporarily help. But then what happens is the more you experience, right, yourself from your own point of view, it then gets pulled apart, and then you think, hold on a minute, this, you know, I understand that at this particular point in my timeline on the path, though now it sort of, it becomes disjointed, it separates, right? And then you look for answers in other places, and then you sort of, though this is where religions, politics, they're all, well, politics and religion, it's PR, right? Yes, that will annoy some people, but it's all about the perception. And it's good when things tend to start off and you try and help somebody else, you try and come up with a particular framework that helps more people, and that's a good thing, right? Sharing is a good thing, but you have to let other people decide whether they accept that or not. When it becomes forced or manipulated, like in a marketing sort of advertising sort of way, it can become manipulative, destructive. So this is where, and this is going to maybe freak a couple of people out, though it's true, is the angle that you look at things. Remember, from your point of view, if you change your perception, you change the angle of what you look at things. This might be still back to front on this. I could do with a new phone. Right. So the angle, right? When you change the perception of look, and it's as simple as this really, is the angle, right? And then it changes to angel, and this is finding a different angle on things. This is where angels, or the true understanding of angels, because in a story that wants you to look down a particular path. Okay, so I'm not going to go on too much about that, because then people think like I'm attacking religions or angels and things like that. But it's opening your eyes and your perceptions to a different angle, right? To a different yeah. So that's sticking to the path. It is knowing what's right, doing what's right, to then not get pulled apart, and then to be strengthened in your own strengthens your core. You don't see as much the stressors in a physical sense either. There you go. Have fun with that.